What is up, everybody? Happy Halloween. Welcome to Birds of the Round Table. It is Cowboys week. We are breaking down top matchups to watch, predictions, everything and more. Guys, if you're watching us live, subscribe, smash that like button, comment your thoughts on the game. Joining us, he is David at PHL Eagle News on Twitter. What's going on, man?
Nothing much, man. I'm glad that the biggest trade of the day ends up being getting rid of Harden from the Sixers. I'm glad we don't have to go through any more of that drama. It's Dallas week, which is always awesome. And then after we beat them, it's a much needed bye week. So I don't know. This is going great, man.
Yep. Also joining us, we got Daniel in the house. We've got Blake in the house. Let's go, man. Let's go. It's time to talk about the stinking Dallas Cowboys. Oh, as always, he is Ryan Reese at Philly Sports PSA. What's good, Ryan?
Not much, man. It is like David said, it is Dallas week. It is one of the most fun weeks of the year. All the cockroach Cowboys fans come out of the woodwork and try to talk trash to you, but it's so fun just going back and forth with these guys that have no business being football fans, honestly. But love it. And can't wait to talk about this game because going into our bye 8-1 is going to be oh so sweet.
Yep. Let's rock and roll, man. Biggest takeaways between the Eagles and the Commanders. I'll throw it to you, David. What was your take?
Well, it's kind of a mixed bag. It's the red zone offense again. You saw the bad, which was 2 fumbles inside the 5-yard line. And then you saw the good, especially with Julio Jones. When the Eagles signed him, I had mentioned about, the impact he could have on their struggling red zone offense. And it showed up quick, shows up in the second game. And the reaction from the team shows you how much and how important he is to them. I mean, that was one of the greater celebrations I've seen this season. I mean, everybody just darted right at him, and the Commanders just started sprawling out the end zone. They didn't know what the hell was going on. It was a really cool moment. So, I'm really happy about that, but I do still think they really got to clean up this red zone thing. Even the play calling down there is a little rough, but the 2 fumbles is just something that just can't happen. I mean, you just can't have that happen over and over and expect to win games. They're just leaving too many points on the field.
What about you, Ryan? Oh, you're muted, man.
There you go. Yeah, I'm going to kind of jump off what David said. Can we get Kenny Gainwell off the field forever? Why? Why do the Eagles coaching staff feel like they need to shove him down our throats? Enough is enough. Listen, it's a nice story. He's a good, he was a good dude, but come on, man. I want to see him get 3 carries a game, and that's it, max. I don't want to see him out there. Throw Rashad Penny in there, especially in the red zone. I mean, listen, you have a bigger back in Rashad Penny that can absolutely come in there and get those yards and get those ugly, tough yards in the red zone. I don't understand why they just refuse to use Penny. But listen, outside of that, my biggest takeaway is Jalen Hurts. He obviously has a problem with that knee, the bone bruise, whatever you want to call it. Listen, get through this week. You got a week off. Heal up for the tough part of the schedule. But listen, he was in there. He was in the pocket. He was throwing darts. He had a couple of little missteps early, but man, after that, he was absolutely on point. A.J. Brown, I mean, there's a reason why A.J. Brown has broken the record. 6 straight games, 125 yards. We're not calling him Megatron. We're calling him Mega John because he is an absolute beast. One of, if not the best wide receiver in the league this year. And it's partly because Jalen Hurts trusts him in a way that you just don't see. And he knows where to throw it. And he honestly, I thought he had one of his best games throwing in the pocket, didn't have his run. That's my takeaway from last week.
Yeah, it's got to be A.J. Brown. I mean, the dude is 75 yards behind Tyreek Hill, has absolutely entered MVP conversation at this
Yes.
point. That's a good one. I want to throw a quick shout out to the rise of Eli Ricks because I don't feel like we talk about him that much. He got flagged for a pass interference, but then like after that, like he was really solid. He had a tackle for loss. He had a big hit on Logan Thomas. That set up that 4th and 1 where it almost led to an interception by James Bradbury and a turnover on downs. According to PFF, Eli Ricks is allowing a 55.9 passer rating on 11 targets this season. He's allowed 0 touchdowns. He played a season high 25 snaps against the Commanders, 21 of them coming from the slot, and he allowed just 3 receptions on 4 targets for 12 yards. It's not been perfect for Eli Ricks, but I would just want to give a shout out to that guy who undrafted guy that's trying to reclaim his name, so to speak. So I want to give a quick shout out to that. Some quick comments here. Quentin says, "Sup, my man, always shows up." Dennis says, "Much respect. I hope you guys are well. I'm tired. We went trick or treating all night. We're here though. We're here." Ryan says, "Dives is never not on here." That's
accurate.
This might be my like 8th show in like 72 hours. But anyway, I'm going to throw this to you guys, and it's open for debate. I truly just want to get your reaction from this because I question just how good the Eagles are, and I try to stay neutral. Like I always take my that's what I try to do on this channel is I try to stay as neutral as possible. You know, like on the surface, the Eagles have the best record in the NFL. They're probably number 1 across the board in a lot of different power rankings. But when you dig a little deeper, the Eagles are 9th in DVOA. They're 4th in EPA offense, but 7th in DVOA offensively. And then you look at the Eagles' schedule. There's a lot of close wins. There's a lot of close wins against bad teams. And we all know the defense has been problematic at times. They're number 1 against the run, but they're bottom tier against the pass, 23rd in DVOA against the pass. You know, like I'm beyond ecstatic that the Eagles are 7-1, but like I still need to see this Eagles team be more consistent before I start to roll out the red carpet on this team. I want to hear your take on that. Like, where do you see this team? For me, it's all about just getting better and better. But I want to have like a real conversation on where we're at because the Commanders kind of really exposed them in terms of picking apart where their weaknesses are, exposing them, targeting their linebackers and safeties in coverage over and over and over again. There's been times when the Eagles have not generated enough pass rush. There's been times when there's a lot of turnovers. What's your take? I'll throw it to you, Ryan.
Yeah, listen. I think a lot of fans right now are still stuck in 2022, and that's very understandable. I mean, we had what up, Dennis? We had such a great team last year, and we won, and we were dominant, and we ran through the NFL. And listen, every year brings a different team, and I think we have to just kind of get out of that 2022 mindset and realize that, hey, listen, this is just a different team. We have different coordinators. We have different personnel out there. We have a different offensive line starting. And we just got to come to grips with, listen, we're going to win in different ways. And honestly, when you think about it and you think about the totality of this team and every win that they have, it almost seems like they win in kind of a different way almost every week. Whether they're running the ball down your throat, whether they're passing the ball, over your head, or they're dinking and dunking, or the defense is stepping up and playing a huge role. I feel like each win almost kind of is its own thing. And you almost get the sense that they're just that close from really figuring it out. And You have games where maybe the offense figures it out, but the defense is a little suspect and vice versa. And honestly, I take that as a great sign. The fact that we are 7-1, we are, as a record, we are the best team in the NFL. We're the only team that only has one loss, and we haven't figured it out yet. We haven't put together that game. That should scare the NFL to their core. The fact that we still are improving. We just got an all-pro safety to help the back end, something that we feel like we were a little missing there. And once he gets acclimated and adjusted to this defense, they are going to be humming. We're healthier. We have a bye coming up. We can get through Dallas with a win and get to the bye at 8-1. I'm sorry. We all look at this gauntlet of a schedule coming out with Dallas and Kansas City and Buffalo and Dallas again and San Fran and even Seattle, who right now is division leader. Honestly, I'm feeling great if we go into this by 8-1. And the rest of the NFL should fear us because we're getting close. And man, if we figure it out, forget about it. Forget about it. We're going to tear through the NFL.
Right, David. Are the Eagles as good as their record indicates?
Yeah, I think they are. I really do agree with what Ryan put there on the screen as well. That's one of the things I had written down is that the Eagles' pass defense is going to have to go through some adjustments. Desai's going to have to make some changes because teams are beating them with these 2.5-second dropbacks like Ryan put there. And the Eagles really haven't adjusted to it. And it started all the way on week 1 with Mac Jones doing it. He picked them apart doing it the same way. And it's never gotten, resolved in any way. And I know he's a new coordinator and they have new coordinators on both sides of the ball, but he's also dealt with just a plethora of injuries back there. I believe Shane said last week they've had 8 different combinations of safeties and corners on the back end. I mean, every time he figures something out, somebody else is going down. And at the end of the day, they haven't played a complete game like Ryan said, but they still have more talent than any team in the NFC, and they're on par with the 2 best teams in the AFC as far as talent. And this thing just keeps chugging along week by week, and they do figure out ways to win, and there's a lot of value in that. So I still believe in them completely. It's different than last year, but maybe at the end of the day, this will help them in the Super Bowl where they're a little more battle-tested because they just haven't had this, they haven't had the same easy path as they were last year up to this point. But the results have almost been identical.
I agree. Absolutely. Dennis says, God knows Jalen D's need that bye week. Absolutely, man. That was what was so impressive about last week's performance. 4 touchdowns. Like, did we get one design run from Jalen Hurts? I don't think so.
No.
And,
I don't think so either.
like, yeah, he did. He put the team on his back at times, man. David says there's so much upside still to come. Ryan says teams are throwing those short, quick passes to avoid sacks, as we've seen all year long. Anthony says I would have traded for Max Crosby because he wants out of Las Vegas, and what about the linebackers for sure. Anybody have any other takes before we jump into the Dallas Cowboys?
Yeah, listen,
I have one last thing about. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say it seems that teams with really good defensive lines seem to be our kryptonite slightly. And we obviously saw it. Washington had, I was going to say they just traded away half of them, but, they had a really good offensive line in both games, and they took us to overtime 1. And listen, they took us into the fourth quarter, right there. And obviously we lost the Jets game, and the Jets have a great front 4. And so I think for whatever reason, that combination of a really good defensive front 4 seems to be, what's troubling us. And listen, we're gonna be playing San Francisco, who just got Chase Young, who already has a really good defensive line. Now, granted, Chase Young didn't really do much against us. I mean, Jordan Mailata really handled him, but still, they have a really good really good. And they have a great front seven, to be perfectly honest. And that game kind of worries me a little bit, but I'm hoping that Sean Desai can see the adjustments that's necessary, and see that this seems to be our fault, or that our bad point, and adjust accordingly, and try to counteract that.
Yep, absolutely. I'm not sure what that was.
Phone
Anthony,
just flipped around. Sorry.
Anthony says, I had a great day today. James Harden and PJ Tucker got traded to the Clippers, man. That was the best thing.
I literally woke up. I woke up to like all of your
Yeah.
text messages, and just
Yeah.
I was like half asleep. I was like, no way.
That might have been at like 4 or 5 a.m. I was so happy. I was so
Yeah.
happy to see that. That was a great morning. Quentin says we won't see Washington anymore, but we could see Chase Young twice. No doubt about it. And Ryan, you said it on our Discord chat. Like, Jordan Mailata held Chase Young to 0 pressures last weekend. It was not
nothing against him. Nothing.
It wasn't Jordan Mailata. It was getting on the interior of that Eagles O-line. But anyway, that's still a problem. That's a real problem for sure. You can't not this. But David, do you have a final thought on the Commanders?
It was just Reed Blankenship. He struggled all day. He gets the big interception at the end, and everybody kind of forgets about what the rest of the game looked like. But he's been a liability, and I know he's an undrafted free agent. He has a lot to learn. And, he was working with Kevin Byard in their first game, and communication was probably a little different. But he's going to be attacked every single week in the way that they're doing these slants and everything else with the quick release throws. And if he doesn't find a way to stop what's going on, that it's going to be a field day in the middle of the field for a long day, especially with CD Lamb and them, who just love feasting on those slot rolls, which we're about to get into.
We're going to get into CD Lamb in the slot, that's for sure. That's a problem. Ryan says it was that way in the Super Bowl too. Eagles defense and linebackers being exploited on short, quick passes to avoid pressure, no doubt. I had a final thought, but I can't remember what I was about to say. But let's jump into Cowboys week. It's time to get into the Dallas Cowboys versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Talking top matchups to watch. Let's get it. All right, guys, let's break it down. Top matchups to watch between the Eagles and Cowboys. If you're watching us live, comment down below what your biggest matchup is. I'll throw it to you, Ryan, first. I'll go last. What's one matchup that you've got on your radar?
Listen, I kind of posted this when we were talking, before, as kind of a joke. But the more I think about it, it's a real thing. The Eagles coaching staff versus the run game. Why are we consistently going away from a run game that has proven successful? And Swift, who got one carry in the first half, that is unacceptable. Unacceptable. The Eagles coaching staff needs to just absolutely stop. I don't know why they're doing this, but like, just run the dang ball. Like, establish the run. Everybody knows when this Eagles offense is humming, there is a nice balance between run and pass. And Swift has been more than advertised this year when we actually use him. He's still the 4th best rusher in the league yards wise. And there's been about 3 games where we haven't even used him. So that should show you right then and there that this man needs to be on the field. He needs to get his carries. And as a side note, as I've said earlier in this broadcast, get Kenny Gainwell off the field. let me see some Rashad Penny. Let me see him in the red zone. If you refuse to use Swift, who they just hate in the red zone for some reason, use Rashad Penny. The man's a bruiser. He can get through that line. He can get into the end zone. Please, for the love of God, I don't want to see Gainwell too much. And honestly, I love Boston Scott, but listen, let's put him on ice till the Giants game. Let's see some Rashad Penny. Let's see a lot more of DeAndre Swift, please.
Yep. Really well said. I don't even think it's about run and pass in the red zone. Like, you've got AJ Brown, you've got Devontae Smith, you've got Julio Jones.
Hey.
Like, give it to your playmakers. Like, if it's that bad, like, stop throwing to Quez, stop throwing to Kenny Gainwell, stop giving it to Kenny Gainwell.
Yeah.
Throw it to your playmakers. Let your best players make a play on the ball. And they have. They consistently have. Well, minus Devontae.
100%. You're absolutely right. I'm not necessarily saying give the ball to Swift or give the ball to Penny over those guys. And listen, Julio Jones necessarily isn't really a touchdown guy. He never really has been a high volume touchdown guy. But man, his skill set, his jump ability, his size as a offensive weapon, you have to start using that along with AJ Brown, along with Smith doing some quick slants, Goddard. I mean, they have so many weapons. Just start using them. Just don't use Gainwell.
Yep. Anthony says, why don't the Eagles put Blankenship at corner? Barry, what's going on? Barry says, why don't our corners, in particular James Bradbury, impress coverage? The Eagles don't do it. They simply do not do it. I was very frustrated by the Eagles' game plan defensively against the Commanders. Like, this is a Sam Howell quarterback that was blitz just relentlessly heading into this week against the Eagles. And sorry to kind of talk about the Commanders, but like, the Eagles didn't blitz, and they were just way too passive. And I don't like, sometimes it's kind of like that Jonathan Gannon where they kind of just sit back, try to take away the big play and kind of keep it all within, 10, 15 yards. But it's just frustrating at times, man. It's just frustrating to watch. I want to see more press, and I want to see more aggressiveness when it comes to attacking, because Sam Howell, again, picked them apart. He just simply picked them apart. Quentin says, I want to see more Julio. And why isn't Rashad Penny being utilized? 5'11", 230, as fast as any of our running backs, with the exception of Boston Scott. I'm hoping it's all just, they're kind of just focusing on having a rotation, and they're focusing on keeping guys fresh. I don't expect DeAndre Swift to get more carries. I think he's probably going to be in that like 10 to 15 sweet spot, at least until like this season truly ramps up. I think that is the focus. So as much as it is painful to see Kenny Gainwell, it's a necessary evil to keep our guys fresh, if that makes sense. That's what I think, and I could be totally wrong. Anthony says this defense needs to be on their A game. We can talk down to Dallas all we want. Dak historically shreds us every time we face him. We're going to get into that. Anthony says, pump the brakes. So what? Gainwell fumble, and now everyone throws him under the bus. Hurts fumbled too, and no one throws him under the bus. Swift fumble already, and no one throws him under the bus. Gainwell's not as bad as a running back.
But yeah, can I just say, anybody can check the tapes. I have been pushing for the Gainwell to get off the field train well before this fumble. Let me tell you, I wanted to see a lot more Rashad Penny, and they just, again, I feel like they just brought in Rashad Penny as like an insurance. Like, Swift isn't necessarily what you would call an injury-prone guy, but he's had an injury, and I think they just wanted to make sure that he was going to be able to make it through the season. And maybe that's their mindset of like maybe not utilizing him as much as they should, knowing that they have capable backs. And I'm not saying Gainwell isn't capable, But like, why in the red zone? Like, that is the last back I would want on our roster to be in the red zone getting carries. That's all I'm saying.
Anthony says Penny is way too slow, but he gets yards after
Yeah.
contact. He gets yards after contact. And we have Shane joining in the house. And looks like he's in an episode of The Office. I'm
He
not
really
sure.
is.
But yeah, we're talking top matchups to watch between the Eagles and the Cowboys. David, what are you watching?
I went with the running backs versus the Dallas defense. But to speak on a couple of things y'all mentioned, Kenny Gainwell, the reason he's down there and the reason he gets playing time is because of pass protection. But the reason he's down there in the goal line situations is because they trusted him despite the fumble this past week, was because of the trust he established with them in 2021 and 2022. He kind of was that guy like that. And that's where a lot of this comes from. And as far as Kenny, I agree with what Ryan said. I think he was an insurance policy. I think that's pretty much why they got him. Also, he had the second most carries in camp running the ball. And he was second, I believe, in running backs and passes as well. And then towards the end of the year, there was some talk right before the season started that they were going to put him on IR. So I'm not saying he's hurt, but there was speak of that. So there's something that went on there. I don't know if it was him not being in shape or whatever he was coming back from, but there is something more to that. And secondly, what we talked about before the season started was when I was on the campaign to keep Trey Sermon. And the reason is because the running backs, the third and fourth running backs on this team never get carries. And having Penny sit down there on practice squad, if he was on the active roster, he'd have 3 extra carries than he does now because they just don't give them carries. Last year, Boston Scott had 54 carries the whole year. Trey Sermon as RB4 had 2 touches the entire season. He was just never going to get them. But back to this game, as far as the running backs go, Dallas is a really formidable opponent. They lead the league in first quarter points, so they're going to start off quick. They're second in the league in total points, right behind Miami, and they give up the third fewest yards, and they're third in yards versus the pass. But where they are a little vulnerable is in the running game. They rank 18th in giving up rushing yards. So the Eagles are still ranked seventh in the NFL in rushing yards per game, despite being ineffective against the Jets when they only had 80 yards, despite not really doing it much against the Dolphins when they had 99 yards on 34 carries. And this past week was the worst when they managed a meager 59 yards in the rushing game. And I do think it's a problem. But part of that problem also is Hurts not contributing or not even being able to be a threat to contribute. But the biggest issue also is, I've mentioned it before, losing Cam Jurgens was a huge loss. Hopefully they get him back this week. It seems to be trending that way. They traded Street away, and they left his roster spot open. So I'm hoping Cam slides right into that spot. But I'm expecting a big game rushing this week, especially if Cam's back. And I think it's the only way they're going to, hold the time of possession and win this game. So I'm going with 150 rushing yards. I don't know how many Gainwell will get, but I think Swift will get over 100. And I think your boy Kenny G probably ends up with about 40.
That was some stats that I pulled to your point on Cam Jurgens, the splits with him on and off the field for the Eagles rushing attack. DeAndre Swift's EPA per rushing attempt with Cam Jurgens is 0.26. It's negative 0.08 without him. Yards per attempt fell from 6.4 to 3.7. The team's rushing success rate fell from 56% to 42%. So getting Cam Jurgens back would be huge for this pass rush, or excuse me, this rushing attack. But also, I think a huge part of it is Jalen Hurts and his ability to impact the running game. It's really hard. All the good running teams run from under center. It's really hard to be shotgun. 2 teams in the NFL have been able to do it, the Eagles and the Ravens. And what do they both have? They got the 2 best rushing quarterbacks in the NFL.
Right.
Maybe you throw Josh Allen in there just for his physical stature, but without Hurts' ability to run the ball, it's going to be tough sledding to run out of shotgun, and you can't just change the offense and get under center now. Mm-hmm. But Cam Jurgens coming back will help that out some, but I'll be interested to see. I really don't know that the Eagles are going to be able to run a lot in this one. I hope I'm wrong though.
And the RPOs aren't as effective because everybody knows he isn't an option to do that. So it has really hindered the offense as far as the rushing game goes. And like you said, they can't up and change it, which I know everybody's calling for that, but that's just not going to happen. And as far as being in the goal line, when people say we need Penny to get, the 1 yard or at the goal line, is he going to be more effective than the brotherly shove or now the brotherly sweep? Because I don't think so. Nobody is. There's not a running back who has a 94% success rate in getting in from the 1 or 2 yard line. Nobody can do that. So it's really tough to put them in there because what are you putting them in there over? And that's just something that I don't think that they're prepared to do at this time.
I had such a weird reaction to the fake. My first reaction was like, yes, no, they shouldn't have shown that play. Like that play should have been saved in a playoff game. Did anybody else have that reaction? Like that was just my literally initial thought was I love the play call, but not in that moment.
I'm fine with it because I don't think you can stop the brotherly shove anyways. But now if you've got all of a sudden you've got that defensive end like, oh, do I have to have contained now? And then it's like, okay, you're going to put 4 guys in the A gap and you're going to have that guy step out. Jalen Hurts will just slide over and sneak it through the C gap. I really don't think it matters, to be honest, but I can see that. To be honest, I would rather you put that on tape and in somebody's head and then just run the tried and true shove. I mean, we saw like the little tight end pop pass thing they were going to try not work. So I'd rather just put it on film and let teams worry about it.
Yeah.
The one in Tampa.
Yeah, I agree with Shane there. I'm glad that they did that. I'm glad that it worked. And yes, now you're right. There is, even if it's a 1% of a creep of a little doubt in that one player's mind, it's always going to be there. And listen, I gotta say, I'm glad that I've been actually thinking about why they haven't done other things out of that, formation. And it was good to see, honestly. And the fact that it worked and Swift got in the end zone, I was thrilled.
He should have gone down at the 2 yard line, but yeah, he shouldn't have gone in the end zone.
True, but being up 14 is not a bad thing.
Nobody was unhappier about it than Devontae Smith. I don't know if you saw the clip. He's like, damn, I got to go back out on hands because he knows he's got to secure the onside kick. He didn't want any parts of that. So I don't know. I would have gone down at the 2, but that's the second time that Sirianni has gone for that against the Commanders with the touchdown pass to A.J. Brown. And both times they were within an onside kick away from that blowing up in their face. So I don't know. I'd have just eaten it.
It's different. The first time is different to me. I liked that call because you were in a tie game. And, I mean, yeah, it's pretty certain Jake Elliott's going to make the field goal. Missed a kick against the Jets. It can happen.
It can.
But you're not guaranteed that, like, you can't kick the field goal with time expiring. If you didn't get a first down, you're going to kick a field goal and then kick it back. So I didn't mind the touchdown the first time around. I thought it was a good call. Actually, and I think that was Hurts checking into that at the line too. I don't think that was the play call, too. But I definitely dislike Swift scoring. I said that when it happened, and a bunch of people were yelling at me on Twitter about it. Like, just let him score. Why wouldn't you let him score? And then like 30 seconds later, when we're having to field an onside kick, I was like, this is why. Like, it's not a high percentage play, but 100% chance of winning is better than a 98% chance of winning.
Yeah, I agree. And Brian Westbrook showed everybody that like 15 years ago when he slid at the 1 yard line against those same Commanders in the same end zone. He also wrecked a whole bunch of fantasy championships, but hey,
this guy right here.
Famous play.
I've been in a fantasy league for over 20, 25 years, and that still gets brought up every single year as the Brian Westbrook play that ruined my fantasy championship. Yes, thank you.
Anthony says, is it me or is Lane Johnson not as physical as he's been the last couple years? Anybody noticed anything there? I mean, I don't recall facts.
Statistically, he's the same. I mean, he is coming back from an injury, so who knows? Maybe he does look a little different, but I mean, statistically, he's as dominant as he's always been.
Yeah, I mean, he's playing on a sprained ankle. So he did give up one really bad instant pressure inside in this game, but I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt right now.
Yeah, he's
all right. Top matchups to watch against the Cowboys. Shane, do you want to go or do you want me to go?
Go ahead. I'll go last.
Okay. I'm looking at Hassan Reddick versus Terrence Steele and Dak Prescott. I mean, Hassan Reddick is the best closer in Philadelphia. I don't think that's even a debate. You look at how much better he's been from at this point this year compared to last year. 5.5 sacks last year to 6.5 sacks this year. 25 pressures last year. This year, 28 pressures, 8 quarterback hits to 10 quarterback hits, 5 tackles for loss to 7 tackles for loss, 9 run stops to 12 run stops. Like literally everything is better in 2023 compared to 2022. And he's, Ryan?
Well, I've never looked at these stats, but if you're telling me that that's the case, and the fact of the matter is, Hassan Reddick didn't really start getting going until he lost that cast. So you're literally telling me he's playing at like an elite level right now.
He's on pace to break everything compared to last year, man.
Wow.
And he's been awesome. So Hassan Reddick is just on a tear. That sack he had against the Commanders was incredible. I nearly lost my voice on that one. It was a big moment. Nobody gets more sacks in high leverage moments than Hassan Reddick. And getting into Terrence Steele and Dak Prescott, Steele has been very solid. He's the right tackle for the Cowboys. He's been pretty good this year. He's allowed just 2 sacks on the year and just 2 pressures total the last 2 weeks. But I think it's important to note that when Terrence Steele went up against a great defensive line in San Francisco, he was absolutely torched. He allowed 8 pressures, a sack, and 3 quarterback hits when the Niners blew out the Cowboys. I think that was like week 5. I'm not really sure. And that brings us to Dak Prescott, because in that game when Steele was getting torched, Prescott was 14 of 24 for 153 yards, a touchdown, and 3 interceptions. And when you talk about Dak versus pressure this year, 63% completion percentage, 4 touchdowns, 2 picks, and a QB rating of 97. When he's blitzed, this is really interesting, Shane. I'd love to hear your thoughts because you're more in tune with this. But Dak's numbers against the blitz are actually at their best. When blitzed, Dak Prescott has a completion percentage of 76%. He has 5 touchdowns and a QB rating of 104.8. That's even better when he has a clean pocket. And, I hate, as we talked before, I hated the lack of aggressiveness against Sam Howell last week. But this is definitely a game, at least when you look at the numbers, you might want to dial it back just a little bit and hope you get consistent pressure, attacking with 4 up front. Any take on that, Shane?
Yeah, you don't want to blitz Dak. He's one of those quarterbacks that you just don't want to blitz. He's a cerebral quarterback. He can get the ball out fast. That was always the thing against like Tom Brady, right? And hear me very clearly. I'm not calling Dak Tom Brady, but that was always the thing with Tom Brady, right? You didn't want to blitz him. You needed that quick interior pressure, but you didn't want to blitz him because he just dices up the blitz. Dak is one of those guys. You don't want to blitz Dak. You don't want to blitz Patrick Mahomes. You don't blitz Brock Purdy. Kirk Cousins has been really good against the blitz. So it's not always like elite level quarterbacks that are great against the blitz, but he's one of those quarterbacks that is really good against the blitz. So you don't want to be doing that. And I don't think you want to play the 5-man, the penny fronts, the 5-man fronts that the Eagles played a lot against the Commanders. I don't think you want to play those a lot against Dallas either. You want to play 4-man fronts. You want to have 7. Is it 7? Yeah. 7 guys. Don't try to do math on the fly when you're on a sugar high. Mm-hmm. You want to have 7 guys in coverage and not to say make Dak beat you through the air, because he will definitely do it. But that is not what I said, Quentin. Stop misrepresenting me on this podcast.
I love Q so much.
But yeah, you don't want to be blitzing him a lot. It doesn't mean you can't throw it in every once in a while, but generally you're going to want 7 in coverage.
Yeah, so for me, Hassan Reddick versus Terrence Steele, I think that is a huge one in for what it means, rushing for and getting into the real estate of Dak Prescott. So, Shane, what is your matchup to watch?
Yeah, I'm going to go Dak Prescott against the Eagles secondary. The Eagles passed you. The Cowboys may not call a rushing play in this entire football game. Like, I know what Mike McCarthy said about Kellen Moore wants to light up the scoreboards. I'm thinking run the ball and rest my defense. Let me tell you, Dallas is 3rd in drop back EPA. They're 28th in rushing EPA. We all just saw what Sam Howell did. Dak Prescott, there's a good chance Dak's going to light this secondary up, and this is going to turn into a shootout. And I think the Eagles can compete in that sort of game. Certainly. You hope this theoretically will be the first time this season that the same secondary has started a second game. So that's certainly going to help get some things ironed out with Kevin Byard and get all that acclimated, whatever. But the Eagles' pass defense isn't very good. The Cowboys' passing attack is really good. The Eagles' run defense is really good. The Cowboys' rushing attack stinks. The Cowboys might throw the ball 55 times in this game. And so you got to be ready for that. They are hard to get off the field. Ironically, you know who the 2 best teams in the NFL are on late down by EPA? The Eagles are first. The Cowboys are second. These are 2 offenses that are remarkably difficult to get off the field. I think we could be in for a really high-scoring game in this one. It's going to ultimately, honestly, I think it's going to come down to what defense makes a splash play. Does Micah Parsons or Hassan Reddick get a strip sack? Does Darius Slay, or I did not say that. I specifically said I didn't say that before people started commenting. But I think it's going to come down to, does Micah Parsons or Hassan Reddick get a strip sack? Does Darius Slay or Deron Bland get an interception? I think it could be that kind of game.
Yeah, and that kind of leads into CeeDee Lamb, who is a dude where 66.9% of CeeDee Lamb snaps this year have come from the slot. And, that is up from 62.7% from 2022. He had a huge week last week, 12 receptions, 158 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I look back at last year, I think it was like week 4, week 5. He had nothing. It was like 4 catches for 50 some yards. But the second game was like week 16, and he had a monster game. So again, that slot area is huge. And expect a heavy dose of CeeDee Lamb, quick passes, there's quick slants, those quick routes to CeeDee Lamb from Dak Prescott, quick passes. So anybody else have any other matchups to watch before we get into predictions?
The other thing they've started doing with CeeDee Lamb over the last couple of weeks, they've started getting him out wide more, which is a good move. He's a number 1 receiver. Treat him like one. They've started doing a lot of 3-by-1 sets with CeeDee Lamb as the isolated guy for the same reason the Eagles like to do that with A.J. Brown, right? You either fully commit 2 guys over here and then we've got numbers on the other side, or you say we're covering CeeDee Lamb one-on-one and Dak likes his chances there. And so I think you'll see that a lot in this game. They're going to isolate CeeDee Lamb in a 3-by-1 set, and they're going to ask the Eagles, how do you want to cover this? And we'll see what the Eagles say.
Yep, absolutely. All right. That being said, let's jump into our predictions of the week. Let's get it. All right, Eagles versus Cowboys, player of the game predictions, score predictions. Looking into last week, I'm just giving the crown to David, who predicted AJ Brown as his player of the week. Absolutely crushed it, man. Well done, sir. Let's jump into week 9 against the Cowboys. We'll throw it to Shane. Who is your player of the week prediction in this one?
Can I address a comment first?
Sure.
We had a comment here that Dak's not going to do anything as long as the Eagles blitz. Literally not true. He's better against the blitz. The problem is Desai is scared to blitz just like Jim Schwartz. Also, not true. So the Eagles have a top 10 defense in the NFL when they don't blitz, and they have a bottom 10 defense in the NFL when they do blitz. I really don't understand Philadelphia fans' fascination with doing things that make the team worse. Like, you got to blitz, even though we're bad at it. Or I've had so many people, even this week, I've had people on Twitter being like, the Eagles need to run the ball more. Why? Jalen Hurts literally had a .72 drop back EPA. Best game of his career passing. Eagles were running for like 2 yards a carry, and people wanted to run the ball more. I don't get it. The fascination with we have to run the ball even if it makes us worse. We have to blitz even if it makes us worse. I don't understand. But anyways, I just saw that. Wanted to address that. You absolutely shouldn't blitz Dak. And the Eagles just shouldn't be blitzing that much anyways. But
blitzing is sexy. Come on. Everybody loves blitzing.
Yeah. I mean, that's what teams that don't have good defensive lines do. I mean, to be honest, like think of the blitz happy teams. Like you got the Giants, blitz happy, right? The Ravens. They don't have the horses up front the Eagles have, and so you have to blitz. But anyways, I'll take my player of the game prediction. Yeah, it's right here. I'm gonna go AJ Brown. I mean, how do you not pick AJ Brown? 6 straight games of 125 yards. I think it's going to be a shootout. And so I think AJ Brown, Cowboys down a corner. So, Trevon Diggs is not walking through that door. I think AJ Brown is going to be the go-to guy downfield again. Give me another 125-yard game.
Shane says, did you forget it? You're talking about Philly. David says AJ Brown going for 125 plus again. Barry says it's not the number of blitzes, it's a threat of a blitz, and it keeps the quarterback off balance. You do need to blitz occasionally. Blitz happy, buddy Ryan.
I mean, the Eagles blitzed 20% of the plays this year. That's definitely a threat of blitzing.
Yeah.
Jazz says they don't have a secondary to lock down receivers. I mean, they're paying a lot of money for that. So let's go to David. Who is your player of the week prediction?
Well, I can't say that I think DeAndre Swift is going to have over 100 yards against Dallas and not take them, so I'm going with DeAndre Swift.
DeAndre Swift, that's a good one. This is a time
whether it be through the air or through the ground, through the sea, whatever, they see the whites of his eyes, whatever it is, he's going to get over 100 yards. And I'll say 2 touchdowns. And he's on my fantasy team, so I'm putting this out there in the world.
Love it. All right. DeAndre Swift to David. We have Barry saying, way to go. This definitely screams like a time of possession game for the Birds offensively. Ryan, who's your pick?
Before I thought about who I was going to have as my player of the game, I thought of obviously AJ Brown, and the next person I wanted to go to was DeAndre Swift. So I'm going to my third choice. And listen, I normally go with offensive weapons here, but I'm going to go with a defensive player for the first time ever. I'm going to go Hassan Reddick. Listen, he absolutely, like before you even told, just at the pace that he's been at, I know he has been absolutely ramped up. The fact of the matter is, the first couple of games, he was completely ineffective. The cast, whatever, however you want to call it. But since that cast came off, the man has been lighting it up. I fully expect him. 2 sacks on Dak Prescott. Honestly, he's going to wreak havoc. And you know what? Let's go. On Reddick.
All right. So
I like a little jazz fusion right here, if you know what I mean.
Those are definitely my top 3. That's where we go from here. I'm gonna go Devontae. Maybe Devontae has a breakout game. You look at Devontae in 2022. He did have 3 touchdowns. He did put up a significant amount of yards against them. So I'll go Devontae. We'll see how this one rolls. But you guys all picked really good ones. I like this choice. Dallas Goedert.
He needs to have it. He needs to have a one of those games. I mean, I feel like he's been so underutilized this entire season. He had that one game that was kind of, a nice game for him. But man, he just needs to have that breakout game, that 150 yards, 8 catches, 2 touchdowns, something crazy like that. I would love that for Dallas Goedert. Honestly, I would be beyond happy.
You know what? I'm switching it to Dallas. Are we good with me switching it to Dallas?
Let's go.
Sure.
Only if he has less yards than Devontae.
I feel like this could be one of those games where Goddard doesn't have as many yards, but has a couple touchdowns.
That'd be great.
Is this the week we have to call him Philly Goddard again?
You're right.
Anthony says what killed the Eagles was bad tackling and bad safeties. And Davey says Sweaty to get a couple of sacks. What's the injury report for Dallas? Because I know, is it Tyron Smith?
Tyron Smith is questionable, I believe.
Questionable, yeah.
Does he even play football anymore?
Right. That's the thing. I don't think he's played in a couple of weeks here, so I don't know how questionable he is.
And I don't know about injuries incurred during the Rams game, but I'm pretty sure Tyron Smith was the only guy on their injury report going into the Rams game.
I have to keep an eye on that one for sure. Score predictions. Ryan, lead us off. What's your score?
Listen, I'm going to kind of go with what Shane was talking about, and I'm expecting a high-scoring game. I mean, Dallas has proven that they can certainly score points, and not just on the offensive side of the ball. Their defense has the ability to get points on the board as well. So I'm actually going to go with a 38-35 Eagles victory, as you will never, ever see me picking against the Eagles this year. Me and David, we know what's up. We know what's up.
David, what's your prediction?
37-33.
37.
I scored.
Is that a Birds victory?
Yes.
Like you have to ask. Come on.
I just want to make sure. Shane, what's your prediction?
Man, they're right in the neighborhood I was going to pick. I'm trying to decide if I want to just stay there or go with something different. I'll say I'm going to go 35-27.
Okay.
35-27. Eagles or Dallas?
I'll let you know next Tuesday. No, I'm just kidding. Eagles. I think the Eagles take this one.
All right. I got it down. Anthony says 28-21 Eagles.
Down with that.
Close. Jazz Fusion says 28-24. Like, you guys are going high score. And as much as, like, when you shake the 8 ball, like, everything points to, like, a high-scoring game, this just screams one of those games that it's not. I'm going to go a little bit less. I'm going to go Eagles win 23-20 in this one. And it's going to be a little bit lesser score. But, yeah, going with the Birds, getting the W. Just as a time of possession and things like that. I don't think we'll see as many touchdowns. Davey says 38-20.
Damn.
Anthony says it's going to be a defensive game. We'll see. Let's go around. Yeah.
We should all be betting the over then, because right now the over-under for this game is set at 46.
Oh, wow.
Eagles are a 3-point favorite, which means per Vegas, this is somewhere in like a 25-21, 24-22 sort of game. So Vegas is saying this is going to be a lot lower scoring game than we do.
Yep. We have a comment here saying need to mirror whatever the Cardinals and Niners did against the Cowboys for sure. And that's kind of why I'm going with Dallas Goedert, because in that Niners game, George Kittle had 3 touchdowns. So just keep an eye out for that. Didn't have a lot of yards, but had 3 touchdowns in the red zone. Davey says we're going to need to beat the brakes off of them.
Love it.
Man, I can't wait, man. This is the game. This is the game. This is the start of a huge stretch of games for the Birds.
Right.
Let's throw it around the horn.
By the way, Dak Prescott was blitzed only 6 times by the 49ers.
Interesting. That's a great stat.
Can I just say, can we just send this show to Sirianni, to Desai, Brian Johnson? I feel like they really need to hear us out. And I feel like we have the solution to win this game for them. So whoever, if anybody out there has any connections, just send them this video. We'll be fine. We'll be good.
Yeah.
Dak was blitzed 25% of the time against the Cardinals and 21% of the time against 49ers. It's not the answer.
So that's right in the average of the Eagles, right?
Yeah, Eagles are at 20% right now.
20%.
Okay.
A little bit less. All right. That basically wraps it up, guys. If you're watching us live again, please be sure to comment your favorite matchup in this one, your score prediction, player of the game prediction. Let's do final thoughts, wrap it up, plugs. Shane, lead us off, man.
My final thought is just a public service announcement for everybody that's out there. Tonight, as you eat your children's Halloween candy while they're sleeping, make sure when you throw the wrappers away, you put some papers on top of it. Like, don't put it on top of the trash can. You got to bury it so they don't see it in the morning. So pro tip for all of you, maybe new parents out there, make sure you hide the wrappers under a layer of trash. That's the way to go. As for my stuff, you can follow me on Twitter and YouTube at ShaneHalfNFL. I put out a video today, a passing game review, so go check that out. It is only on YouTube. Clips will be going out to Twitter tomorrow. I didn't have time to cut that up. I'm also planning to have all 22 videos coming out tomorrow, a Sydney Brown game review, and also another video about how the Eagles are handling bunch, so you can check that out. Also check out my whole NFL podcast, Chalk Talk. Mark and I recorded last night amidst numerous technical difficulties. It was a lot of fun editing all that stuff out, but go check that one out as well.
What was that audio software called? Does anybody remember what the audio software was called? That's when we first started to record podcasts. I don't remember. Zencaster. Did anybody ever record with Zencaster?
Never.
I'm telling you, the worst shit ever to edit and layer audio and make it sound coherent. It was so annoying. Like, that was years ago.
So last night, Mark was on hotel Wi-Fi, and my computer got the blue screen of death mid-podcast. And so it takes it like 5 minutes to reboot. And so I tried to message Mark, like, just talk about the Eagles game and I'll be back as quick as I can. But Mark left the podcast to refresh because he thought it was him and he couldn't let himself back into the stream. So for 5 minutes in the middle of our podcast, it was just a blank screen with our background until I could get back in. It was great.
Ouch. Been there. Been there.
All right, David.
In other news, I'm about to buy a new computer, but
all right. Thank you for the positive comment, David. It means the world to us, man.
Yeah,
thank you
seriously.
so much. David, plugs, final thoughts.
My final thought is I want this rivalry to be what it used to be. This was a nasty rivalry. I want this to be how it was in the 80s and the 90s. But now, like this week, Dallas fans have been scared to talk too much smack. Eagles fans are too used to winning. We've become softer as a fan base. And even Jerry Jones is stated that he didn't want to poke the bear. He said, I don't want to do anything to poke the bear that is the Philadelphia Eagles. And I don't like this reserved, more timid Jerry Jones. I want the bravado and the confidence back. I appreciated Dak actually said he didn't believe that Jerry Jones said that. And he said, no, let's go ahead and poke the bear. In fact, when you poke it, pour honey all over me. Like, get the bear to come right at me. And this is Dallas week. You don't want your owner cowering. You don't want him pleading the fifth. And I missed the smack talk between these two teams. This was a great rivalry. So don't hide and duck the media. Step up and feed the beast that is the Dallas Philly week. And also, I want somebody from the Eagles to call Kittle and get him to lend that shirt to Goddard for this week that he wore when he lit them up for 3 touchdowns. If y'all don't know the shirt he wore in that game, Google it.
Xander says, hold on. Xander says 24-14 Eagles win only because of penalties and turnovers. We are
They're the least
still
penalized team in the NFL. No.
We are still getting a shit ton of comments about the Eagles' penalties or lack of penalties against the Miami Dolphins from videos 2 weeks ago. We are flooded with Miami Dolphins fans. It's unbelievable.
My favorite part is that like 7 of their 10 penalties were delay of games, false starts, and lining up offsides. They're not even judgment calls. Like they were procedural penalties.
They cannot let it go. I'm telling you, we get comments like multiple, like 5 to 10 comments a day from salty Dolphins fans. Let it go, man. It's time to move on. So I just wanted to throw that out there about the penalty thing, man. I'm just tired of it because it's played. Ryan, final thoughts.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
I just got to say something. The Eagles have 4 interceptions this year. All 4 interceptions came when they were not blitzing. That's all.
Shane, I absolutely love you, dude.
Roasted.
Listen, to kind of piggyback off what David said. Yeah, dude, it is Dallas week. This is a fun week. I mean, the fact of the matter is, it's a home game. I'm going to be down there. I'm going to be absolutely raring to go. I cannot wait. It is one of my favorite games of the year to go to every single season. And it's honestly, it's just the back and forth between those cockroach Cowboys fans. I mean, they literally come out of the woodworks underneath the couches and in the closets and everywhere. They come out of nowhere. And these guys have never left Pennsylvania, but somehow they're Cowboy fans. And I just absolutely love arguing with them and getting into it with them. So if you know a Cowboys fans, give them some crap this week. Absolutely get in their face. It's the best time of year. And honestly, it's just so much fun just going back and forth. And David's right. Like that rivalry, that aggressiveness. Jerry Jones, man, he's getting up there, man. Like, I'm used to him saying some dumb stuff right before an Eagles game, and he's not, which is rare.
He's scared.
He is, yeah. He clearly is. He knows them birds.
It's a huge game, guys. Like, if the Eagles win this game, you're up 2 games in the division.
Plus,
you have the tiebreaker, so you're essentially up 3 games in the division going into the bye. Yep. The flip side is if you lose, you're tied for the division, which is really like being a game down. You don't have the bye. So, like, honestly, this is like a 4-game swing almost going into the bye. It's a huge game. I can't wait. I'm so excited. Like, I know this schedule is monstrous. I'm so excited to watch Dallas, Kansas City, Buffalo, San Francisco, Dallas again, Seattle. Like, I want to know what this team's really made of. I love great football. I would rather play great football than be 9-1 on crappy teams. I cannot wait to get into the meat of this schedule.
That was the question I threw to Ryan and David, because I threw some stats at them that doesn't necessarily show that they are the number 1 team in the NFL. And I just, we kind of had that discussion, and I wholeheartedly agree. Like, they're going to have to prove it, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. My final thought for this one is Parsons. I can't wait for the Eagles to attack Parsons. There's nothing more fun to watch on a national stage when the Eagles just target Parsons and just run right past him. It's a lot of fun, man. Like, Parsons hasn't recorded a sack against the Philadelphia Eagles since week 3 in 2021. Like they have done such an amazing job at limiting his damage against them. Last year, Parsons had 11 total pressures and 0 sacks in 2 games. But all we're going to hear these next few days is how Parsons has 43 pressures and 6 sacks through 8 games. We're going to hear that Parsons has the second best pass rush win rate in the NFL. But the Eagles, like Aaron Donald, they always seem to have an answer for this dude. So that's what I'm excited for. And I just want to say thank you, everyone, for watching. It has been a great show. It's going to be a great game. Again, comment your thoughts, vibes, gut feelings, predictions about Eagles versus Cowboys down below. Give this video a like if you love Shane's facts, because we all love him here. Give my man Ryan Reese a follow at Philly Sports PSA. He is David at PHL Eagle News. He is Shane at Shaven Half NFL. Guys, Birds of the Round Table, we usually do Tuesdays at 8, but because of Halloween and stealing all my daughter's candy, we had to push it back 1 hour, but we'll be back next Tuesday at 8. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We'll see you next time. Go Birds. Stay awesome, everyone.